Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. We're going to be taking a look back at the 2006 animated comedy film titled Age. Now, it is produced by Laurie Fort. The script was written by Peter Galkey, Jerry Swallow, and Jim Hecht. Let's see, the story was also written by Peter Galkey and Jerry Swallow. The score was done by John Powell, and it was edited by Harry Hittner. And it features the voices of Ray Romano, John Leguizamo, Denis Leary, Chris Wedge, Queen Latifah, Seann William Scott, Will Arnott, and Jay Leno. It seems that the only character who was able to maintain his character fresh while adding new dimensions was the saber-toothed squirrel named Scrat, voiced by Chris Wedge. Sadly, the other characters in Age The Meltdown were placed in subplots and conflicts that was not up to par with the first installment. It's strange that after tens of thousands of years has passed since the first installment, which was basically just a are going to be placed in a situation that they cannot control. Yes, the acts of nature on Earth is making their lives difficult as the ice age is melting, and their lives are about to change forever, and maybe not necessarily for the better either. But even though this is kind of a bit surreal that they're still around even after tens of thousands of years, I'm going to let it slide because this is animated film. I'll also be scratching my head in puzzlement. I'm not going to let that bother me. In the sequel, we find the acorn-obsessed Scrat, who by way of default is first to notice that the skies above and the landscape they inhabit looks very murky, and the global change is only a motion away. Scrat throughout this whole thing kind of serves as a bit of a narrative piece as to what's about to unfold and how the characters are going to adapt to this new life that is coming their way. Scrat is wondering where the oak tree was that elusive acorn fell from. As the squirrel is climbing the ice wall, the little critter almost plunges to his death, very similar in terms of like Wile E. Coyote when he's in pursuit of the Roadrunner, but is saved when his tongue gets stuck on the ice. As this is happening, the glacier starts melting as a stream comes from it. This is characters, even our beloved saber. Concerned with the effects of global warming, this film will surely be aware. There's definitely a lot of regarding characters from the past situations we're facing right now, present time as we speak. The only difference is that back in prehistoric times, it was just an act of force of nature that was causing their livelihoods to change, if not for the better. But a lot of the global issues that we're facing today, well, we got nobody to blame but ourselves. And I'm not going to be hypocritical and say that I didn't contribute. I'm sure I did. Speaking out for everybody else, I'm also might be speaking out for myself. But yes, we've done a lot of bad to global changes in our weather system. But of course, back then, it wasn't our fault at all. We weren't alive. I mean, changes in of the Earth and the shift in the climates has been happening since the world's been turning. Maybe that's what killed off the dinosaurs. Maybe that's what killed off the giant mammals. But this is actually a movie where the human race cannot be put to blame for this whole Ice Age meltdown. But it was actually a great service to have Scrat there to serve as a narrative foil for the other three characters, namely Manny the Mammoth, voiced by Ray Romano, voiced by John Leguizamo, and Diego the Saber-Tooth Tiger, voiced by Denis Leary. If your young ones weren't, like I said, concerned about the effects of global warming, this film will surely make them more aware. Giant icebergs start falling into the sea. Water levels are at an all-time high, and the wildlife, though the characters use their resourcefulness to prevent drowning, we also realize that others are not so lucky. There's a saying within their confines that a hollow log is in the valley, and if they can float on that log, they will make it to safety in hopes to survive for as long as they could. The characters from the previous film have managed to live together harmoniously, though from a logical standpoint, what do the carnivores do when it comes to meals? I mean, when you think about it, think of a character like Diego. Diego is a freaking saber-tooth tiger. I mean, if he had his own way, you know, characters like Scrat and Sid would be kind of like a light snack. And as for Manny, Diego would like to sink his long teeth into Manny and would have a nice mammoth supper for him, which could probably keep him in contempt for at least a week or two. So sometimes I have to wonder if all the prehistoric mammals are all living together in harmony, well, where do the carnivores stick out? Makes you wonder. I'm just thinking about some possibilities as to I mean, I know I'm trying to make it seem real. I know it's animated. I know we're supposed to suspend our disbeliefs. But on a logical standpoint, how did the carnivores survive? Aside from Scrat, we have the other mammals who have interesting subplots. But they're not as focused as the global catastrophe as to what's going on. It's mostly personal the fears and the intensity that their land is being thanks to but there's still a lot of personal issues that seem to come into effect, that seem to somewhat stage their life, the situation that they're facing. The woolly mammoth named Manny, who feels like he's the last of his. He fears that the mammoths are about to be on the brink of extinction, and that the only solution for him to keep his species flourishing is to look for a mate. Where we're introduced to one of the newer characters, her name is by Latifah, and that it might be Ellie to help at least bring back the population, the mammoth population, in hopes that the species doesn't extinct. And able to help save the species. The only problem is that the marsupials live in Australia, but the opossum are the only North American marsupials. But I think she's an opossum. She doesn't think she's a mammoth. And then you could tell her, hey, have you ever heard of a mirror? Of course, they had no mirror, because this is prehistoric time. She's an opossum, and now it's up to Manny to try to convince her that no, you're not an opossum, you're a mammoth. Let's make babies. Let's push our population. Let's try to keep our population alive. I don't want to die from extinction by being the last mammoth on Earth. You see, she was adopted in a possum family, and has two adopted brothers named Crash and Eddie, voiced by Seann William Scott. And then we have another. He's not going to survive this whole change in climate unless he starts taking them swimming lessons. Sloth. He truly feels that he deserves, because let's face it, most of his friends regard him as a goof and an idiot. But Sid wants to prove that he actually does have leadership skills. He wants to convince his friends that he could be a leader. Eventually, yes, he actually gets crowned king of the sloths. The only thing is that the sloths who crowned him want to actually throw him into a volcano. I don't know, some kind of initiation. But by then, he backs out and decides that there's no point to it. Also in support, we have Fast Tony the Turtle, voiced by Jay Leno, and a lone gunslinger who is a vulture, voiced by Will Arnett. But once we meet the characters and the ice shelf starts to melt, the adventures start to take off from there. The trek is long and dangerous as we see the thawing of two large carnivorous marine sea monsters that look like they will evolve into sharks. They're probably, in my opinion, maybe the two. They're probably maybe the form of the main villains in the story. But, you know, it's just another obstacle for the gang to overcome. Plus, there is a scene involving an ice bridge that's on the brink of collapsing, which was definitely a nod to the bridge scene from Lord of the Rings. Here, of course, you know, global warming was taking place. And these animals look like they are in dire straits. In the end, Ice Age The Meltdown is definitely nice to look at in terms of color and details, and gives you kind of a bit of a provocative story about the shifts in their climate and how they're dealing with the situations that they're facing. And the fear and the paranoia just seems to fully make sense coming into this. And it is truly a remarkable watch. In the end, Ice Age The Meltdown is nice to look at in terms of colors and details. The animals are interesting in terms of their interactions with each other and have provocative subplots, though not fully developed. The action definitely does run at a quick pace, which is good because the movie's 91 minutes long, and it's going to be mostly for kids. And we all know that kids don't feel very comfortable sitting through movies that are an hour and 45 to 2 hours long. I know the kids might have a blast with this movie. The adults might enjoy it quite less because this is a pretty sad tale. The first Ice Age movie shuffled the characters like a whirlwind, but in The Meltdown the characters were watered down quite a bit. Most of the film was about trying to coexist in a world that's changing right in front of them. From a cartoon standpoint, it's really good, and if global warming is to ensure they're adapting to warm weather and plenty more acorns from Scrat, then problem solved. I would truly say I would highly recommend this movie. It's fun to watch. It's for the kids mostly. But if the adults who seem to be somewhat concerned with environmental issues, maybe this movie might even be for you. It might be lighthearted for the kids because, oh, look at the cute characters. But for the adults, we want to sort of dig deeper down into what commentary they have to say in this movie. I think they did that to pretty good effect. So when all said and done, if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would give Ice Age The Meltdown. So I guess if you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead, but just remember the 3 simple rules. Be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Red Rider saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you.